Hey everyone, so today we're going to work on rational expressions day 2, talking about finding the least common denominator and adding and subtracting. So yesterday we worked on multiplying and dividing. Take a look, you'll now notice there are plus and minus signs between those fractions, and how does that change things for us? Well, the biggest thing is if we remember how to just add and subtract regular fractions, you'll remember that we need the same denominator. So if we have 3 and 9, we would multiply this guy by 3 over 3, 6 ninths plus 1 ninth. We loop up and add those numerators and we get 7 ninths. So that's going to be the main concept here, guys. We need the same denominator. We're going to combine the numerators, keep that denominator, and then simplify if we can. Like if this was 6 ninths of an answer, we would simplify it to 2/3. So let's take a look here. Okay, we notice, first of all, we look at those denominators. We have x plus 5 and x plus 5. So we should be extremely excited because now we know we can add these fractions together. We don't have to do any work right now. We're going to loop up. I'm going to add 2x plus 5 plus 3x plus 20. That gives me 5x plus 25. Okay, you'll notice I first add up the numerators and then I throw that denominator back in. And I think to myself, is there anything else I can do to simplify this problem? Okay, well, 5x plus 25 actually factors to 5 times x plus 5. And I already have an x plus 5 in the denominator. So my final answer here is actually just 5. So we still don't want to forget about simplifying, but we're not going to be doing any simplifying until the very end, almost always. So wait until you've added stuff together, combine those like terms, and then look to simplify. Okay, so let's try a couple more here, and then we'll dive into some tougher ones. So x minus 2 and 2 minus x, you'll notice these are so close to being the same, but they're not the same denominator, so I do have to do a little bit of work here. Okay, the first thing I want to notice is how could I get these to be the same? Well, I could multiply by -1. Remember, when I multiply this by -1, I would get -2 plus x, which is really x minus 2, and then they would match. So I'm going to be multiplying, again, notice I multiply top and bottom. When we're adding fractions without an equal sign, we need to multiply the top and bottom by the same thing. Okay, so let's figure this out here, guys. I'll move this to the side if you need it. This is going to be, I'm going to loop up here. 3x plus, now this is -4, so I just have 3x minus 4. I add that denominator back in, and then I think about if I can simplify. Well, nothing factors here. I can't cancel out pieces of a binomial, so that's it. 3x minus 4 over x minus 2. Now, if you chose to do both of them as 2 minus x, maybe you multiplied the first one by -1. Just as a reminder, you actually could have the answer of 4 minus 3x over 2 minus x, and this is actually exactly the same. So if you're working with a neighbor and you see that their answer on their paper, I guess you won't, but if you saw their answer was opposite of yours, okay, then that could still be the same exact answer. Because this would actually simplify if you took out a -1, it would be exactly the same. So there you go. Let's try a couple more. How about 9x squared and 6x? Well, we finally have one that's really not the same denominator. So we have to think about what do we want, and maybe even write yourself a note. What is the least common denominator going to be? Well, 9 and 6, pretty much 18 is the lowest you can do here. And then you have x squared and x. So lowest you could do is x squared. Okay, so you want to think about what's missing. So from the 6x, I would need a 3x to make that 18x squared. From the 9x squared, actually, all I need is a 2. So, again, once I've got my 18x squareds, I check that my denominators are the same. I loop up. I make a big loop, and I say, what's 2 times 5? 10. What's 1 times 3x? 3x. Nothing else I can really do there. And it's divided by that common denominator of 18x squared. I double check there's nothing else I can factor, and they don't all have the same common factor like a 2, and they don't. So this is actually it. Final answer. Come on, there we go. Okay, now we're going to dive in. finally head first into some that are a little bit crazier, okay? We'll save this one for class here, okay? Let's take a look at that one. Hopefully you recognize is a lot like this one. Very, very similar. Let's take a look at this guy, okay? So the first thing I notice is that my denominators are not the same. And specifically, they're actually pretty different. So I want to do something where I get the same denominators here. So if I were to factor this, I have x and x minus 3. If I factor this guy, I've got x squared and x plus 3. Okay. If I want my least common denominator to have all the pieces needed, well, I have x squared and x. That means the lowest I could do is actually x squared. I have an x minus 3. And I have an x plus 3, right? Like I need all of these elements. There's no way I can make them the same or cancel them out. So this literally is my least common denominator. And that's going to be the big denominator at the end. So what I need to do, and I'll use color here, is think about if this guy has an x plus 3, then this one needs an x plus 3. And if it doesn't have one, I have to multiply to the top and to the bottom. All right, if this guy has an x minus 3, then this one needs an x minus 3. So I multiply x minus 3 to the top and to the bottom. Now, if this one has an x squared, this one needs an x squared. It's actually pretty close. It already has x, but notice you're going to have to multiply by x over x here to get it to be x squared. Okay, so you want to check. Is this the least common denominator? X squared, x minus 3, x plus 3. Yes. Is this the least common denominator? X squared, x plus 3, x minus 3. Yes. So I've checked both my denominators. I'm feeling good. They're pretty complicated, but I've got everything written out. And now my biggest thing that you need to be careful of is you need to loop up, simplify the numerator first. So do not be tempted. If you cancel this out, then you just ruined all your hard work, right? That was the whole point. So no canceling, promise me. So here's what we're gonna do. I drew that huge loop. I'm gonna rewrite it. What do I even have here? Let's see. Times 4 plus x plus 2 times x minus 3. Notice I'm still not writing the denominator. I don't even care about the denominator yet. I wanna get this numerator all settled in here. So I'm gonna move the 4 over here and make this 4x, so it's a little less awkward. So 4x squared plus 12x. I have to FOIL here actually. X squared plus 2x minus 3x minus 6. Okay, and then let's see what I got here, guys. This would be 5x squared plus 11x minus 30. What am I doing? How about minus 6? Sorry, I was doing 5 times 6 in my head, I think. Already getting ready to see if I can factor. So minus 6. 5x squared plus 11x minus 6. That's my numerator. And now I can finally bring in my denominator. What was my denominator? X squared, x plus 3, x minus 3. Okay, and that very last step is there anything that multiplies? You want to see if this can factor, right? Anything multiply to negative 30 and add to 11. Well, no, 6 and 5 are like tempting, but you can't do one negative to be negative 30. So it actually doesn't factor. And this is my final answer. Oops, sorry. So this is my very final answer. So again, how did we do this? We found out the least common denominator. We added in what we were missing on each side to make it match. We checked that our denominators were the same. We did a big loop up. We combined our numerator into a singular polynomial right here. We checked if we could factor and we couldn't, so this problem's done. All right, so let's try a couple more here. Okay, so take a look here at 2y, y squared minus 25, and y squared plus 5y. Hopefully you guys are noticing I should try factoring, seeing what there is. So I've got y times y plus 5 and y plus 5, y minus 5. All right, so if I want to look at a least common denominator, okay, well, I need a y plus 5, and I need a y minus 5. Those are kind of all the elements that are being hit here. So if this one has a y, this one needs one. if this one has a y minus 5, this one needs one. And if this one has a y plus 5, then this one needs one. Yay. Well, they already share it. And we check, is this the least common denominator I just wrote? Yes. Those of you that like steps, these are easy steps to follow, but you have to be careful. So I check my least common denominator. I loop up. Y times 2y would be 2y squared minus, be careful here guys, this would be y plus 1, y minus 5. And I want to subtract that entire expression, so always be really careful with subtracting. This would be 2y squared minus y squared plus 1y minus 5y, which would be minus 4y minus 5. Plus 5. So y squared plus 4y plus 5. Okay, and so from here, again, I have my numerator all combined. Excellent. And then I go and I write my LCD back in. Okay, and I think, can I factor this? Anything multiply to 5 and add to 4? No. So again, this is actually it. So that is kind of the end of that problem there. And that's all we can do. Okay, so let's try one more here, guys. And then we have a couple to do in class. So take a look, last one. We have 3 terms. We notice this guy's w minus 2. This guy is w plus 2. Okay, so here again is what you're thinking of. If this guy, let's think of a least common denominator. Well, I have a w minus 2. This is technically 1. W minus 2 matches, and w plus 2. So my least common denominator, if you're able to come up with that first, that makes your life so much easier because now we know what do I need to multiply by. Well, if this has a w minus 2, this one needs a w minus 2, this one needs it. So it doesn't have one yet. Okay. If this one has a w plus 2, this guy needs a w plus 2, and this guy needs a w plus 2. Okay. Now, that next step, what do? We check, is this the LCD? Yes. Is this the least common denominator? Yes. Is this the least common denominator? Yes. And now our favorite part, loop up. Let's see what we got. We've got 2 times w plus 2, w minus 2, plus 4 times nothing, minus 1 times w plus 2. Okay, we're going to end up combining these terms. This foils to be w squared minus 4. We've got minus w minus 2. Okay, and then from there, as you're combining your terms, I've got 2w squared minus 8 plus 4 minus w minus 2, which I believe gets me to that. Now that I've got that combined, I divide by w minus 2, w plus 2. And again, that final step, don't forget, can I factor this? What multiplies to negative 12 and adds to negative 1? Hey, it actually factors. Negative 4 and 3. So we can actually, I'm just factor this over here for you guys. Minus 4w plus 3w minus 6. 2w times w minus 2. I'm doing split the middle. You can do whatever version you prefer. Long story short, I'm going a little bit quick through the factoring just because either way, you should get to a point that says this. 2w plus 3, w minus 2, divided by w minus 2, and w plus 2. Okay, and when you get here, finally, we have an example. That paid off, and we actually do need to simplify. So our final answer is 2w plus 3 over w plus 2. Alrighty. So pause if you need to, guys. Take a look at that final one. That was a tricky one. These in general are not the easiest problems. So take your time looking through these again. Think of that process. It is pretty much the same every time, checking for that least common denominator, adding on those terms we don't have, and then looping up that numerator, and finally trying to simplify. So thanks again for watching. We'll obviously be doing 2 more examples in class to make sure you guys feel okay about that. And thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.